Hey everybody, it's Becca Heyman, and this is First Line Frenzy Live. My special guest today is Kate Bateman. She's incredible, right? She writes historical romance, and since discovering her forthcoming release as an advanced reader copy, I have been devouring as much of her work as I can get my hands on. So I'm really excited to have her on today. I'm really excited to have all of you here today, and we're going to get started in about 5 minutes, so we have plenty of time to chat. I'm going to go ahead and send an invitation to Kate. Oh, no, wrong button. You know, will I ever get good at this part? We don't know. Okay. There she is. Okay. Until Kate gets here, I want to know how all of you are doing on your Roar Challenge. Oh, hi.
Hello.
This is good to see you. Well, I'm like always so relieved when it works. Like, I have no faith in this system at all.
No,
how are
Let
you?
me turn you up so you're a bit louder. Here we go. Hello.
Oh, hi. It's so nice to meet you.
Well, in over a screen, but yes, it's.
I mean, as close as we're gonna get, right? How are you? Are you super jet lagged? You were in France
It was a week, last weekend. I just got back from Paris, from the rare signing in Paris, which was awesome. And it was Paris in springtime and everything you would hope to be, it was. And I'd forgotten how good bread is in Europe. Like, I've got used to American bread, and I just pigged out for an entire week and ate everything.
That sounds exactly like the right choice. I bake a lot. So way before COVID, like when we all still had energy, I decided to bake all of our own bread for a year, to not buy any store-bought bread for a year. And I made it 8 months. I made all of our, I would make 2 loaves of sandwich bread a week. I was making rolls and buns and every conceivable bread. And then I remember it was August, and we had just come back from a beach vacation, and I was like, I just can't do it. It's too hot.
It's a lot. Well, I wish I was that organized. I keep meaning to get a bread machine, but then I just know I'll never use it. So, I mean,
I don't like bread machine bread, but there's this great book called Artisan Bread in 5 Minutes a Day. And it basically teaches you how to make a no-knead massive batch of dough that matures really well for 2 weeks in the fridge. Then you just tear off hunks of it and shape it and bake it.
That sounds great.
It's like a lifestyle choice for sure, but it definitely makes it easier to get that sort of European style peasant loaf on the table. If not every day, then every other day.
It's worth the time. I mean, the taste is definitely, slow food is worth. I mean, my kids are actually pretty good. My son makes a really great pizza base, and they can all cook really well. So
amazing. That's so great.
I have to pay them to do it though. They need they bribe me. It's like, if you want bread, I'm gonna have to need a lift to the cinema next week.
That's amazing.
This is the hell of teenagers. Oh, look, I'm being so English. I've got my Kill a Mockingbird mug today for my tea.
That's okay. I have I'm never without a cup the size of my face. This is it looks like a dragon egg, so that's why I like this one.
It's very tactile, lovely.
Just all of my Game of Thrones, queendom dreams. So before we talk about, your amazing books, what are you reading right now?
What am I reading? Well, I'm between books. I literally just handed in edits for book 3 in my Ruthless Rivals series, so it's off, and I'm waiting.
I like to hear that.
Waiting for the feedback, and I've just seen a sneak of the cover, which I'll be doing a cover reveal next week, and it is so cool. It's so good. I'm so excited. So what am I reading? So when I'm between, I give myself 2 weeks between books to kind of mull over what my next series is going to be, and to read everyone else's stuff, because I can't read other historicals when I'm writing.
When you're writing,
yeah. So I've got a whole list. I don't know, you've got my bookcases behind me. I picked up a whole bunch of stuff at Rare. So I've got Portrait of a Scotsman by Evie Dunmore, and I've got Prince on Paper by Alyssa Cole. I've got those 2 on my to be read list.
I haven't read. I think the last Alyssa Cole I read was a contemporary, but I think in that series, I read the first one in that series, which is a Princess in Theory. I think. I want to.
Yeah, I read the novella, which I can't remember the name of, but there was a novella in that series.
But then there was she has a different series, and there was I think I get sometimes confused about I read 5 or 6 books a week, and the signals get so crossed, Well,
I can't remember my own titles because I start with working titles, and then it obviously gets changed horribly. So most of my books I can't ever remember. I'm like, just name the characters. I'm like, that one with Tristan and Caris or whatever.
The thing that happens and the speaking of Tristan and Caris, I loved them. I got A Daring Pursuit as an arc, and that was the first book of yours that I had read, and then I immediately fell down the rabbit hole. I was I was so I'm I'm lawful good in the reading, so I had to read A Reckless Match first.
Oh, well done.
You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to miss anything, but I love it. You have such a great balance of adventure and romance, and I find so frequently those two things are not balanced very well. Like either a romance will sort of veer into more of an adventure romp and let some of that propulsive romance go, but yours is so perfectly balanced, and
thank you.
It's delicious.
I remember when I was, when I thought about all the things I enjoyed growing up, and I did literature at university and had years of like depressing literature just shoved down my throat, and the girls always die, or they get, cautionary tales. And I really like things like The Three Musketeers and Count of Monte Cristo and all those kind of swashbuckling.
One of my favorites. Yeah, I was going to say the Count is.
Yes, and so that's the kind of vibe. And but always I would read them and like, well, I like this aspect, but I want more romance, or I want, I was shipping characters, or like dangerous liaisons, but I would like give them a happy ending because I hate the ending of that. But that kind of super snarky. I love that enemies to lovers, that banter.
It's so good, but you have it. But here's the great news for everybody watching. I also inhaled the Bow Street Bachelors series like immediately after I finished while I'm waiting for book number 3.
Oh my gosh.
TikTok, by the way. No, I'm kidding. Take your time. And you nailed it. It's like you have it right in every book, and that's so rare. Usually you expect at least one dud in the trilogy. Sorry to say it.
No, I do. I write the first one and I no idea, because when you pitch, you do a 3-book series, but you've kind of got the first one in your head, but you literally just write a 2-line paragraph for the next 2.
And then the other 2 are on deadline, and you're like, well, I have 6 months to figure this out. No, but the entire series is so artfully like orchestrated, and I think people who read my reviews will know that sometimes I respond very positively when I feel like I'm in what I call good narrative hands, like just like a lot of authority in the voice and in the storytelling, and every step is very sure. And I just loved it. I need you to write like a lot more books, is what I'm saying.
I know. Well, I'm so slow. I mean, it usually takes me honestly about 4 months, but I tell my publishers 6.
Wow,
because life gets in the way. I have 3 kids.
Tell me about 4 months, how slow that is.
That is slow. I mean, yeah, I could probably, if somebody, locked me in a snowy cabin, I could probably do it faster with no.
4 months is not slow. 4 months is very fast. So just like, in case anyone watching is concerned that you are glacially slow, if you take more than 4 months to write a book, that is not slow. That's amazing. And so does your process involve a lot of planning, or are you a pantster? Like, how are you doing that so quickly?
I've got better. Like, I think I am naturally a pantser, but then I've realized that, I would massively overwrite. So I'd end up with 100,000 words, and I'd end up chopping, 15 or 20,000 when it was in edits. And then you realize you don't need that entire process of rocking in a corner crying that you've had to kill your babies, and just write the 70 or 80,000 word manuscript at the beginning with some kind of planning. It makes your life a lot easier. So I don't over plot in the sense of I don't want to feel like I've already written the story, if that makes sense. If I get too much into detail, it kind of loses the fun of actually writing it. Like, I hate doing long synopses because it's just
because everybody does, because they're from the devil.
They are evil. They are the devil. But yeah, I mean, that's interesting that a lot of my plots come from real historical inspiration, real plots. But then the danger is, obviously my background is history and antiques, and I could spend days just talking about the clothes and the furniture and nobody cares. Like, you need just the key is to pick 1 or 2 details that kind of give you a flavor. And I suppose that's why Regency is nice as a time period, because everyone understands already. what the rooms look like, you can imagine the dresses, so I just need to give you 1 or 2 very specific details and you're there. I don't need to do that much work. So it's lazy writing from my
I love it. You're slow, you're lazy. Tell us more. Tell us more about
it. I drink way too much tea.
Well, no, I have loved every book I've read, and I plan to read, everything else that's available now, that's available for now, but I'll be, devouring what's next soon. But I think the fact that you do have this history, so if people don't know, you are an antiques expert.
Yeah, I'm a proper
And
geek. Yeah.
yeah, well, and it's such a unique, wonderful niche geekiness, you know, like
Yeah,
it's
it's actually used. So to give the background, I came out of university and I honestly thought I was going to go into publishing. I'd done English lit at uni and I worked in bookshops and libraries and stuff. But my dad had an antique shop. My parents are both fine artists, they're painters, but they also had an antique shop on the side. And they used to have a studio at the back and they just sell antiques. And then at some point I finished uni and I was working, ironically, for Macmillan, who are now my publishers. I was temping at Macmillan in their marketing department. And my dad said, I'm going to open an auction house. Just come back and, I'll do all the paintings and the furniture and you just do all the rest, like the small stuff, which is actually, idiot me, 90% of the stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like that's actually a lot of stuff.
China, ceramics, gold, jewelry, coins, everything. So I did some very quick crash courses in all of those things in about 6 months and took, the legal stuff that you need to do to be an auctioneer, and just came back and we started an auction house. And we did that for like 15 years before I moved to America. So I only started writing. My husband's work moved us to the States about 11 years ago. So that's when I couldn't auctioneer in central Illinois because the licenses are different and not that many mid-European antiques.
I was going to say, not really the hot spot for European antiques.
Surprising. There is stuff, but it's a lot harder. And I couldn't just walk, if I was in Chicago, I probably would have just gone straight to Leslie Hindman and been an appraiser there. But it was not. So I just figured, what do I like doing? My other love is reading and historical romance. So I was like, why not write what you want to read, what you want to read.
Well, I think that is an amazing way to arrive where you are. And I'm personally very thankful for whatever job brought your family to the US that caused this shift. So I think it's great. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you. I was lied to. It was supposed to be a 3-year placement and I'm here with a green card 11 years later. So I'm, life gets in the way, right?
We'll keep you. Have you thought about writing a character who is an appraiser or a specialist of some kind?
Well, all my girls have cool skills because I like the ladies, so they are counterfeiters and things, and so some of that does come from I've looked at a lot of fake paintings, and so
the counterfeiting I thought was really, really well done, and that's everyone that's in
that's the counterfeit heart. That's the counterfeit heart. That one.
There you
go. From the first Secrets and Spies series. But I've got co-breakers. I've got jewel thieves. I mean, the jewel thieves, obviously, I've never stolen one myself, but I've seen quite a few. And that was brought about by the real theft of the French crown jewels. And I was just intrigued. Like, the author Brady's like, well, they disappeared for 20 years and someone knew where they were, right? And they basically showed up one day after the statute of limitations for actually being prosecuted for the crime expired. And lo and behold, one day later, they show up in London. Like, big surprise.
So is that the second Bow Street?
Yes, that is To Catch an Earl, which was sort of based on To Catch a Thief, which I loved.
Okay, yeah. So that's what I was thinking of. The jewel heist was amazing. Like that relationship it was so delightful and effervescent. I listened to that one on audio. The audio was so well done. It was and you can feel your expertise, but it's never belabored and it's never didactic. It's like very subtle and it's just great. Good job.
This is history by stealth. I figure if you've learned one historical fact by the end of a book, then I've done my job, as well as giving everyone a happy ending and things like that. So yes.
Yeah. Well,
job done.
On that note, so before we can get to the HEA, we have to start. And so, First Line Frenzy obviously is why we're here today, and we're going to get started. First Line Frenzy rules are very basic. We just want your gut reactions.
Okay.
You are, of course, welcome to nerd out on, the grammar and the structure and all of those little things, but I will take care of that part for you, for everyone. And about midway through, we'll stop and talk about a couple of the things that you have on right now with this Earl of Mine and Sunflower Season and some other things that people might want to know about. But I'm going to start my very high-tech way to do this, which is to flip my camera. Woo! And you can see my Jamie Fraser.
So I'm gonna have to get close to my screen.
Cut out. Well, this will be a lot bigger. Hold on a second. Let me pull this up. I have kind of figured out how to do this because you can't share pictures when you go live with more than one person. Okay. Can you see that okay?
Yes, I am good. That's good.
Okay, good. All right. Well, we're going to start with an adult historical. Here it is. When my twin sister was promised to a man living deep in the Negev, our mother wept like raw cheese in a twisted cloth.
Wow. That's quite an image to start with.
Yeah, the Negev, if people don't know, the Negev is a desert in I think southeastern Israel. So big desert vibes here.
Wow.
I find this very striking. The raw cheese in a twisted cloth, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's so specific.
it is. And I mean, and I guess it sort of puts you in a time period, because without, I mean, I know, it's a historical, but at least, people making their own cheese has not, not happened, for several years, unless they're a cheese maker,
Right.
this is like, it should be very specific.
Just like a real
right.
cheese loving fam. Now, it definitely gives that almost homesteader vibe, right? Of a time when these things were not so easily purchased.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of uncomfortable. It leaves me with uncomfortable. I don't know why, but the idea of raw, and I get why they get it, the idea of squeezing it out and you're going to get the water coming out. But I'm a little unsettled, I have to be honest, by that. Which
It
is
is unsettling. No, it gives me ugly cry vibes. Like, this is not a woman crying politely, or like adorably sniffling. She's really going for it. It's a weird image. And the thing, I guess, that I'm not, I don't know, what does it say about mom to compare her to raw cheese? I'm not sure.
Yeah. And it's also, sure. I mean, tears are clear, but I'm getting the idea that maybe you'd have like a cloudy liquid come off a cheese. I don't know. I've never made my own cheese, but I would think
I have, and you are correct, right? That for sure. It is not a clear, beautiful liquid that comes off of raw cheese. Certainly not. Yeah, I think this is very vivid, but also very strange. And like you said, it's not a bad thing to be both vivid and strange. And it's, of course, mechanically quite sound. But it is a bit of a wily one. Yeah, it's a little weird. So
I'll be interested to see the next sentence, because that's, you're only getting a glimpse. And I mean, the good thing about a hooky first line is it should exactly that, raise a question or put you in situ. You do get an idea of the problem, right? Her sister's been, sold or, engaged or whatever to a guy. And it sounds like it's not particularly happy, right? The mother's not happy about it.
Yeah,
right?
I'm going to say weeping cheese is not what I would call a joyful food, for sure.
No.
Yeah, I agree. So this one is strange and very visceral, and I think it's hard to know how effective it is in the grander scheme of things, obviously without context. But as a first line, I would keep reading. I mean, it's certainly very vivid. As we go, if you have a favorite, make sure to write down the number, because the author of our favorite line of the day is going to get a pre-order of A Daring Pursuit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is striking. I mean, you're right. It would make me read more. It's intriguing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very striking. I think that is striking and strange, I think, is probably how I would position that one. Let's see. The next one is adult literary. Amadeus Crow baited his hook with a miniature dachshund puppy and attempted to reel his sister in. I know you had to read it twice, because for a second you were like, wait, did they put
I
a
thought that
puppy
was
on
a
fish hook?
literal horror show for a second. I was like, is he catching sharks and he's literally putting a miniature dachshund on a hook? I mean, yeah.
I also had that thought, and it gave me, I don't look at these too carefully when I make up these lists, because I don't want to be prepared in advance. But I did look at this one, and I did a double take, because I was like, well, I can't, we don't do like dead puppies on First Line Frenzy. That's just not a thing that we're open to.
But I mean, I get the idea. I love the concept. I think if you could sort of rework it with slightly less sort of viscerally terrifying language, I think it would be good. Because I mean, that's really assistant. I love that idea. I mean, clearly it's the bait to, I mean, I joke I'm going to be getting in a murder van that basically gives out free tea and cakes. I mean, I'm there. And books, a mobile library, take me now, kidnappers. So, I mean, I can see how Jackson would.
Oh, which way
They'd throw me out after 2 streets. They'd be like, lady, you're too much trouble.
Yeah, I think, again, I love the idea of this, but the language around baiting a hook with a puppy is so disturbing to me that I think it would just stop, I think it would stop readers in their tracks just to reread and process. So while the concept of, reeling someone in with a puppy is quite potent. I'm not sure that this is the kind of potent we're looking for. It's a little scary.
I mean, it may be deliberately going for the shock value, but I think, I think I get the idea that they're trying to convey. It's just, yeah, the proximity of the word hook to puppy is just, it's just
and the fact
scary.
that it's a miniature, like dachshund, and then you're like, oh, do they sell minis for this purpose? I mean, you take a small dog and make it smaller, but why? Is it to use as bait? Yeah, I just have a lot of questions about this, and it's definitely in that like strange literary fiction, place where like I sometimes feel like lit fic writers lean into the disturbing a little bit, because I think it can feel important with a capital I. But I would say maybe stepping this back a little bit, it might be prudent.
I mean, if the rest of it is almost like a comic, if this is a kind of comic kind of thing, which
Yes.
it kind of could be read as. I mean,
be.
I don't know the likeness of it. I mean, Amadeus Crow is a brilliant name. That just rolls off the tongue. That's genius. But yeah, I think it could be brilliant if you just kind of somehow thought of a way to,
he's back on the idea of fishing with a dog.
Yeah, just trap, like this, set his trap, or even something that wasn't quite so, like, I physically saw that picture of this little
Yeah, even baited his trap with a miniature dachshund puppy instead of baiting
I
his
have
hook.
a miniature poodle down asleep right here.
Gosh.
So
Hi,
I would
baby.
it's a bit scary for me to have a thought of a little miniature dashie is.
I agree. 100%. I agree. I think maybe just it's the hook. It's the word, specifically the word hook that needs to change there to our author. Hopefully they'll see that. Okay. YA fantasy, and the note in the submission was that it was translated from the Spanish. I did not translate it from the Spanish.
Okay.
Moisture seeped through every breath as if possessing them, and left the unpleasant feeling that lichen from the rocks would grow in their guts.
Wow. Possessing
them
is a weird choice. Possessing them. I mean, again, anything that's translated is tricky because it
could be a translation error. But I think more than that, there is no discernible character here, and there's no conflict per se. And so while this is quite pretty, it falls under the category for me of more poetry than prose. But when we pick up a novel, especially a YA fantasy, we're looking to connect to character as soon as humanly possible. Let's see. Deanna says, comments, I'm assuming things have been lost in translation. And I do think you're right. But I believe we can look at this even in translation, and even with the grace of saying, okay, the translation might be imperfect, and know that there's not enough character here to give our reader something to connect, someone to connect to.
Yeah, because it's a nice idea. I mean, it's a really nice, interesting idea. I mean, it is, again, it's intriguing. Like the idea that lichen would grow in their gut. I mean, maybe not like guts, but maybe their lungs or something like that to have it through breath, because you've got breath, but then you've got guts. And I would think breath is more lungs kind of thing.
You would be right. One hopes.
Unless it's some weird YA fantasy where people have very different kind of biological functions. But yeah, I think if you gave us a name or something, then you would be, rooting for the person and feeling their uncomfortable, feelings and stuff. But
yeah, I mean, I think, and there's also I have so many questions about why this humidity leads to a feeling of something so, I like this idea that like the humidity is so thick that they feel like lichen could grow in their bodies. But as you say, it should be lungs, not guts. And we don't need to know that it's lichen from the rocks. Like we all know where lichen belongs. So there's some very beautiful imagery here. And even forgiving the use of a derivative of moist, which is the least attractive word in the English language.
yes.
I think there's a great idea here. There's a beautiful image here, but there's no character to live that image. And I think that's really what we need. So I think, again, I would check the translation, and I would think about bringing a character forward and a conflict forward to give us a little bit more access to what's happening. Onward.
I would agree for that one.
Adult romance. Okay. I'm going to have big feelings on this. It was pouring rain, and she was late.
Okay. Well, passive voice. So it was.
Yes.
It was pouring. And she was like, so we don't know quite. This could be a first. Well, no, it can't be first person. It's more like omniscient narrator, really, isn't it? It's just telling us.
My guess is that it's a third person limited with that we guess, right? The problem is talking about the weather is so boring at a cocktail party, and it is boring in a first line. Unless the weather is telling us something about the internal conditions of our characters, those external circumstances are not especially moving.
Well, I mean, or unless, you know, it is the conflict, like literally she was wearing a tissue paper dress and it was raining and oh God, she's in trouble kind of thing. That's the only kind of acceptable way you could put
exactly. Yeah.
a rainstorm at the beginning. Yeah.
But there are some first line frenzy. I try to avoid hard and fast writing rules because we all know to be wary of those. But first line frenzy tends to dislike waking up in a first line and weather in a first line, and we're wary of dialogue in a first line. So that's where we're coming from.
Well, yes.
So for me, this is what we would call a fact cake, right? It was pouring rain, fact. She was running late, fact. There's really nothing here to keep us going. My favorite example of weather at the start is from this Diane Lane movie called Unfaithful. Did you ever see that movie?
No, I don't think I have.
I end up talking about it all the time in these first line frenzy things because the character Diane Lane plays gets caught in this massive windstorm, and she's injured because of the wind, and that injury leads to the meet cute that causes the conflict, and they're the winds of change, right? So like it's the only time the weather it's just the perfect example of the weather being so much bigger than the weather. And if your line doesn't do that, get the weather out of it. No one wants to read that. It's just very boring.
Yeah, in fact, I was watching on the plane. I rewatched the Pride and Prejudice, the Keira Knightley, Matthew McFadden one. Yeah, I was just purely for that midpoint rain scene, which is talking about rain at good times and weather. That was absolutely perfect, right? Because you have a thunderclap, you literally have it pissing, everything's going wrong, the world is falling apart. It's like this biblical deluge, and you've got this massive breakdown of communication and everything, and that is the perfect way to use weather, right? It's not in the book, right? It only works in a visual medium. I mean, the book is, I can't even remember how it happens. It's just in a lane or a letter or something. But that was good. So yeah, this doesn't give us a sense of who the she, why it's important, that where she's going, whether I mean, I guess it's annoying that it's pouring rain.
Of course, but you know, annoyance does not a conflict make.
Yes. So we need more.
We need more, author. Give us more. Okay. Oh, another romance. I was conscious. When Ellis Bourne's mother walked into the brew pub with a young man trailing behind her, Ellis ground her teeth before forcing herself to smile. There's a lot of narrative distance here. I feel like we're very, very far. Like as close as we're close enough to Ellis to understand like the working of her jaw, but the voice is very distant. Are you getting that too?
Yeah, you're right. It's a bit of a kind of whiplash. Because yes, you're right. You're watching them walk in, which seems to be like across the room, and then then you're in her head with the grinding teeth thing. It does have a conflict. I mean, there are questions. Is the young man always to assume that the mum is a cougar and likes picking up young men? Is this a young man that the mum is hoping will be a good match for her daughter? I mean, there are questions, right?
Could be a long lost brother. Yep, we don't know. I think that is interesting enough, but it also, notice, I guess, how the first character that we see and focus on is the mother, and yet she's characterized as Ellis Bourne's mother. So it's like, here's a character that we're looking at, but don't really look at her, look at Ellis, and then don't really look at her or Ellis, look at the young man. It's a lot of this is an overpopulated sentence for me.
Yes, because you've got two people before you hit Ellis, and you
right. And the first person, the mother, is characterized under the umbrella of Ellis's name, but she's not. I don't know. This is a lot of. It's very busy.
I mean, the brew pub is also very specific as a word. I mean, I guess that's a good thing to place people. You don't get those, in every part of the world. So I guess that's
certainly it's not an American setting. I mean, no one uses this beautiful word in the U.S. Um,
Brewpub. I don't know, but where is it supposed to be? Because I have never heard an English person use brewpub ever.
oh, really? I would have assumed it was English.
Oh, so we would go to a pub or a bar.
Pub.
There's brewpub is really confusing me. I thought that was an American thing. Like I was thinking like craft beer kind of place.
I feel like we're that meme of Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Because I was like, for sure it's British. And you're like, oh yeah, no, I mean, definitely it's not British. So it's got to be something else.
I don't know. So word choice is interesting there. So I don't know. Author, tell us where it's supposed to be set, because you.
Yeah, and if anybody can pop a comment in, if you are familiar with this, if this word is used locally and where you are, that would be amazing.
We're flummoxed unless it's an alternative.
Well, it could be like one of those things where someone is writing a UK setting, but has never been there. Oh, Lauren says it could be Amsterdam. Oh, and someone else says brewpub is super common in the USA, whereas I, an American for my whole life, have never heard of it in my life. I was a brewery, right? Like a brewery, and then I guess, does it mean like a pub in a brewery? That feels very complicated. I don't.
Yeah. Clarify.
It's not so super common that I've heard of it, and my whole job is words, so I take issue with the super common.
Into the truth. Yeah.
It's not common enough that I've ever heard of it. So look, I think we need to centralize Ellis. I think we need to. We like the conflict. We like the suggestion that we don't know what the role of this mysterious young man is. And obviously there's a mother-daughter issue at stake here. But I would certainly love to see Ellis take center stage in her own. If she's RMC, she should really be taking the center stage.
Yeah, I mean, even if you flip that sentence. I mean, Ellis ground her teeth before forcing a smile as a mother approached, trailing a young man behind her. That would
100%. Yes, that makes it better. Alara says it's a restaurant that sells beverages brewed on the premises. Okay, still not. I think super common is an overreach, but well, okay. We're gonna leave that there. Adult fantasy. Okay. Oh boy.
Oh my
the
God.
Dead priestesses. Oh dear. Okay. Priestesses lay scattered across the cobblestones, torn apart like flowers in a cruel child's game. Oh dear.
It's striking.
It is. Pour one out for the priestesses. That's not good.
I would love to know if this is written by a man or a woman. My guess would be a man. I could be wrong, but that is the vibe.
Oh, why? Because doing violence to a number of women at one time and then opening with that image might signify that someone is.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm just trying to be.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I feel like, first of all, opening with something this viscerally violent, where women's bodies are torn apart and then likened to flowers, and then the flowers are part of a cruel child's game. It's all a bit dismissive of the.
Yeah, it's
the heaviness of the violence. It is a little dissonant.
I mean, it's definitely a tone. And when I got the feeling cruel child's gives, is that like loves me not, something like that kind of, which is kind of a weird vibe to have with dead people. But
that's like not even that cruel, right? Like, I don't know what the child's game would be. Charles. I mean, what game involves tearing flowers apart other than he loves me not, which is like maybe the least cruel game I can think of.
To the flowers,
and it's not
I
game.
Guess. Cruel to the flowers. So you're likening, obviously, you're equating the women to flowers, and I mean cobblestones again. It could set you. Obviously, it's fantasy, so that tends to be potentially medieval. It could be an old part of a city, or it could be completely fantasy. Yeah. Priestesses as well, obviously all female.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously trying to grab the attention, which it's done. For me, this is not the kind of book that I would immediately want to read any more of. This gives me the vibe of Troy, where you've got, them sacking the priestess's temple, and but that's more killing the guards and not the priestess.
I guess I'm not in a rush to see like bodies scattered anywhere, and that they're so specifically female bodies, that they're so specifically likened to flowers, and that then they're even more dehumanized by being part of someone else's game, and not just someone else's game, but a child's game. It's a lot. It's a lot
I
here
mean,
for me.
it can be a beautiful image. I can't remember. It's in one of the classics, like the Metamorphoses or something like Ovid, or there's a one where a guy has died and he's like a young man and his head droops like he's dead and his head droops like a flower, like a droopy flower. And that as an image has stayed with me for 25 years of that kind of beautiful death, that idea of that youth cut down. But this is a lot more, I mean, it's striking. It's clearly trying to, go all out. If this is your opening image in a film, I mean, it's going to grab you. It's not a film I would ever have gone to watch.
It's not a movie I would watch. I would see that Netflix preview and just
Yeah, and again,
watch Bake Off for the 14th time again instead. For me, there's enough to stop me here that I think we're probably not alone in feeling like, even if this image is one that is used later on, you have to warm us up for this. A good friend of mine who is an agent and a wonderful editor in his own right, Noah Ballard, always says, don't show me a dead body before I know who the living person was.
Yes.
And that is it's something I think about a lot. Just opening on a dead body says so many things, and not all of them especially flattering, about what the book intends.
Well, and so also, the next line presumably is going to give us our protagonist.
Yes.
But the questions are, is he somebody that is he's one of the people that are killing, or is he somebody that's coming up on a crime scene, or is he somebody that's tried to stop it and is, I guess, yes, you need the next sentence. And they've gone with the shock value of this opening image, but it's uncomfortable, let's say.
I will bet dollars to donuts that this is part of a prologue, and that we might not even get a character walking in on the scene. It might be this omniscient narrator, just with a sweeping view of the damage. I have very little trust with this author right now because of the many layers in this sentence. And so I think that's something to consider too. Authors in general, you can look at how things turn you off and why that might be. And for us, it's the violence to women's bodies. It's the casual sort of treatment of those.
Well, you've also got that slight overlay of a secondary image of when do you throw petals? It's like at a wedding. It's you've got that weird kind of juxtaposition of happy and murder, which is odd. I mean, it makes me uncomfortable. We could be doing it a disservice in that I think if you maybe saw the next few sentences, it might clarify things. But based just on this sentence, it is tricky. It's a tricky.
It is very tricky. So even if this is the scene that you want us to open on, I recommend bringing us into the scene on the back of a living being who walks into it. This is an observation that might land better coming from a character with whom we sympathize or with whom we feel safe. And so to sort of throw this out with no safety net underneath it isn't doing your readers any much service. I just don't think you're giving your readers anything to hang on to here. So you might want to consider that.
I mean, again, it might be something, if this is in a long series of books where the audience are already primed to expect this level of violence and stuff, it may well be that this is what they're expecting. Every book starts with a gruesome murder and then you find out who done it or whatever.
Yeah, but we can't know, and we can't rewrite, we can't do that work. We have to assume, and you've written series, don't you assume that every book you try to start for the reader who picks it up for the first time who hasn't read the previous one?
Yeah, and all my books are standalones. I mean, it's nice, and there are Easter eggs for people that have read and recurring characters. But yeah, you can read the whole thing straight on its own.
If you're not lawful good like me and you just go in for the chaos and just start anywhere, you would be fine. Number 117 is another YA fantasy. Magic is dying. Cats are ceasing to speak, and trees no longer roam the earth.
Well, I like this. I think that would definitely make you, I mean, that's just intriguing, right? It's hooky, it answers questions, it shows you very clearly you're in this weird alternative fantasy world. Magic is dying is quite possibly, that's your problem, possibly. Cats are ceasing to speak. I mean, I kind of like that. It gives the idea of familiars and trees no longer roam the earth. That feels like a bit Tolkien-esque, the Ents wandering around.
Yes.
But again, there's no main character. We don't know who's telling us this.
It feels like jacket copy to me.
Yes, this is the
And
blurb line, actually.
right,
Yeah, this is the first line on the back of the book. Yeah, yeah.
it's a blurb that would totally intrigue me, especially talking cats. That's like living the dream. But I, as a first line, it's very busy because this does all the work. All these things, right? Cats ceasing to speak, I find awkward. Cats have ceased speaking, is less awkward.
Yes.
Anyway, cats have stopped talking and the trees aren't roaming the earth. These are all symptoms of this disease, right? They're all symptoms of this thing that we've already named. And so I think magic is dying is probably the first sentence here.
Yeah.
Which again, it's not a great, like, is it an exception to the rules? There's no character in a sentence, magic is dying, and there's no, but it is conflict, right? It's pure conflict.
Yes. I mean, it would be something like not just mine, but the whole world's or something. You know what I mean? That would put you in a...
It's a great blurb, but it's not a great opening line. I think magic is dying is probably your opening line. And then, line 2 could be something like, I know because Agatha, my 14-year-old tabby cat, didn't tell me the mail had arrived, or something like that. So you can show, not tell, I think, as well. This is a very, or the poplar grove was exactly where it was 2 weeks ago. Something like that. Have you read India Holton's Wisteria Society?
No, that is on my to be read list, though. Apparently
it's
really
so good. It's so fantastic. And the friend of mine who recommended it said, just so you know, houses can fly. And I said, okay. And she said, everything makes a lot more sense if you know in advance that houses can fly. And I was like, okay, great.
Wow, that's like Howl's Moving Castle kind of territory, isn't it? That's
it
awesome.
Is a little bit. Yeah, there is that sort of, it almost feels like an homage to Howl's, but it normalizes, it's like magic norm, I want to feel that it's weird that cats aren't speaking and it's strange that trees aren't roaming around instead of just being told that those things are no longer happening.
Yeah,
so
I think you're right. This is blurb copy. I mean, it's great. I'd still really like it, but yeah, you're right. As a first
100% great blurb, not the best first line. All right, we're down to like the last 4 or 5 here, I think. Okay, the adult thriller suspense. I always say I put these in the lives because I'm not when I read adult thriller and suspense, I don't sleep. I get very anxious, and I'm a little bit of a baby about it. So I like to put them in the first Frontline Frenzy lives with other people, so I don't have to read them by myself. Occupying Minds was nothing new for Emmett Lane. The trick was to get in and out before anyone knew she'd been there.
Again, intriguing.
Yeah.
Get in, and I personally would want the repetition of get in and get out. I think get in and out sounds a bit odd for me personally.
Agreed. Yeah. There's it's enough of a familiar phrase that we sort of need
and get out. The trick. Yeah, I mean, it clearly tells you you're in with somebody with either psychic abilities or mind reading or something like that. Occupying Minds was nothing new. So again, we've got a protagonist clearly up front. The trick was to get in and get out if anyone knew she'd been there.
I worry about the level of cliche in this sentence. Nothing new, get in and get out. There's something like a little tired about the language, which is weird because the image is so interesting. And I wonder if, like, what if we said, okay, we want this to be one sentence, not 2. And so maybe we say something like, for Emmett Lane, the key to, and I would like to know what we call someone who can occupy minds. I'm way more interested in, because this could be paranormal thriller suspense. That's not.
It could be Nalini Singh Sai Changeling kind of.
Exactly. That was my exact thought. It gives me big Nalini Singh vibes. And so it could be like, for Emmett Lane, the key to being an elite occlumancer or whatever was to get in and get out before her victim or her
mark
subject her mark knew she'd been there. So I would love to see some language that signals the paranormal status of this, if that's what it is. Maybe Emmett is doing an MRI though. Like we don't know.
So I mean, I would probably want to start it just with the whole get in and get out, get in and get out, because that's very intriguing in the sense of, is it a heist? Is it exactly what is it? Is it
what is
so
it?
Get in and get out. That was the key to mind reading. Emmett knew this, and then so you wouldn't really have Emmett Lane in the first sentence, but I think you could have it quick enough and close enough that you could get it in like 3 short or a very couple of short sentences that would hook people.
Yeah, we've had some very interesting, intriguing premises this today. There's just been some very, very good ideas. People are really bringing the heat. I love the idea behind this, but I think it's clunky. For me, it's a little tired and it's a little clunky. And this semicolon is not, what's here isn't, we use a semicolon when what comes after it can't be understood without what's before it. And so I just don't feel like this is quite weighty enough to warrant such big guns punctuation. But that's just my feelings about semicolons.
And also, I mean, I guess going on about the sort of tired thing, mind reader has done, it's been done before. So what's specific about her type of mind reading on this world, or her reason for doing it, that is different from every other mind reading potential paranormal we've got? I think something like that, even if what she's there for, why is she there? Anyone knew she'd been there, but why is she doing it? Is it to break a crime? Is it to to crack a case? Is it to commit a crime? Some hint of something like that would really intrigue me as to or even a sense of moral guilt or not guilt as to this is a bad thing to do, but it's for a good cause, or something like, what I mean, like something.
It like definitely passes the so what's next test. I think about that with every first line I look at, which is, do I care about what happens next, or is it a big so what, nothing burger? And I think this is definitely more of a something sandwich. I really want to know why this is happening and what's going on. So again, great idea. The execution is not extraordinary for me, but I think the ideas of moving this along are very good.
Yeah, I mean, for that, if I was doing, I think I'd do something like, you could really grab people by starting this was the most disgusting mind Emmett Lane had ever been in, or something.
I love that.
Incredible, right? As an opening, because you'd be like, wait, how, what? That would really grab you. I think you're right. This is a little bit too.
Yeah, it's basically it's taking something extraordinary and making it a little mundane, right?
Yeah.
But
exactly.
I love
so
that.
Give us
this
specifics.
Was the most disgusting, or this was the most. Emmett Lane was accustomed to the private, disgusting or
depraved
people's
depraved
thoughts, but this really took the cake. Yeah. Okay. So before we move to the next line, I'm coming back for just a second. Don't be alarmed. You're going to see my giant face. Okay. I like to give a warning before we keep going, because I have 4 more lines for you, but I want to talk about a couple things that you have going on, just in case people bail right at the end when we're done with our lines.
Don't bail, everyone. Thanks for joining us, by the way. We've got people.
Yeah. Don't thank them yet. They have to stick around to the end to be thanked. So 2 really exciting things. One of Kate's novels, This Earl of Mine, is on sale for, did you say $2.99?
Yes, which is, my publishers never drop the price of books, so this is usually $8.99. So This Earl of Mine, which is the first in my Bow Street series, that's $2.99 on all the retailers in the US. I'm not sure if it's an international deal. There might be reduced prices in Europe, but I'm not sure. But check it out. That's possibly.
I loved this book. I loved the whole series. I had truly read A Daring Pursuit and A Reckless Match back to back in, I think, under 36 hours.
It takes me so long to write, and it takes people so
I know, but I savored it, and I will definitely be listening again when A Daring Pursuit comes out. What I like to do is I read the arcs, but then I reread in audio, because I love audiobooks.
Oh, okay.
So I usually, obviously most of my arcs are e-arcs. And then when they come out, I like to sort of experience it all over again, especially if there's been a big gap, between when
I get different stuff from audio. I mean, it's weird. However good my narrators are, I can't listen to audio literally more than about 5 minutes, because obviously it's my head, my speech when I write it. And so nobody speaks exactly like I would intonate, or slightly put emphasis on the wrong things, or pronounce things differently. So it's like,
I'm very picky. There are certain narrators that even if they narrate for my favorite authors, I won't listen to them. But your narrator is very good.
That's Beverly Crick, I think, did
Beverly
that
Crick,
series.
yeah.
So yes, she is very good.
she does such a good job, and she really makes that special. So this girl of mine, just get ready to just buy all 3 in the series. You're welcome.
Why not? This is like Regency submarines. Who knew? That's the Marriage of Convenience in Newgate Prison.
It's so good, and they're so good. They're just the best. They're amazing. So, and then Sunflower Season comes out on June 7th. Sunflower Season is an anthology with contributions from 70 historical romance authors, and all proceeds from the sale of that anthology are going to humanitarian aid in Ukraine. So I have pre-ordered. You should pre-order. I think it's $7.99, which is an unbelievable price.
It's like 10 cents a story if you do the maths. It's ridiculous.
Amazing. And some of them are previously published, but some of them have never been published before. Is that right?
Yeah. So I originally gave a different, longer story, but then we realized we were above Amazon's page count. So I've had to put a shorter story in. I know Lenora Bell is writing a short one. We were going to do a collab, but we ended up going over word limit. So she's doing her own, a shorter one. But yeah, there's a lot that have been written especially for it, and some old favorites. So
I can't wait. It's going to be great. And it's right at the beginning of June. So it'll be the perfect thing to read on the beach, because it'll be in little bites.
It's snackets of little stories. So
yes, anthologies like this are a great way to discover new authors that you've been curious about, but you're not ready to commit to a whole book. And maybe this is a great way for you to sort of get a little taste. So that's out June 7th. A Daring Pursuit is out the 24th of May. So you have plenty of time, everyone. You have plenty of time to read A Reckless Match, which is the first in series, the Ruthless Rival series. You have plenty of time to read that beforehand. My review of A Daring Pursuit will go up the Tuesday of publication, but if you subscribe to my newsletter, you have already seen my review and how much I love it. So
hooray, thank you. So glad. It just amazes me that anyone sits there and giggles at the books that I sit there giggling while I write them, but it just amazes me that other people enjoy it.
There was a lot of giggling, but also like a lot of like book boyfriend. So
yeah, my mother reads them, and despite having 3 children, I'm pretty sure my mum still thinks I'm a virgin. So it's always a bit awkward when she says, "I read your new book," and you're like, "Oh, good."
And you're like, "Did you though?" Okay.
I should just redact like the CIA. I should just like read all of it except like chapters 27 and 32, because let's just still look at each other over the Christmas dining table without.
I think I can't remember. Is it A Week to Be Wicked? It's one of Tessa Dare's books when I think in her dedication or the acknowledgments, it's like, special thanks to my dad, skip chapters like 8, 11, 20, like
all of them. My dad's still waiting for me to write the great British novel, but it's never going to happen, Dad. Sorry.
Well, my parents are still waiting for me to be a lawyer, so at least yours are in the right profession. All right, I'm going to flip myself back around here so that we can get to. There's my wall.
I have to say, it's so much more delightful to critique other people's stuff than it is to think up your own. I mean, I have to say it's a lot. It's easy to tear things apart, but
I've always said I'm an editor because I like to hold the keys to the madhouse, not live inside.
Yes.
Only love for my authors, I swear. Okay, another adult historical, very historical day today. The cell door. Oh, criminy. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna screw this up. Okay.
I'm sure.
Sorry in advance. The cell door swung open, revealing Hauptsturmführer Vogel. Wait, what? How?
I'm guessing that's High Storm Führer, like I don't speak German at all, but
right. Okay. Hauptsturmführer Vogel, and it's the grammar that's stopping me. And I read my execution in his arrogant smile. The cell door swung open. Oh, this is why, friends, because when we change verb tenses, we need commas. The cell door swung, right? Here we have a simple past. And so then this, revealing, is progressive because it has an ing. It's an ongoing action. So the cell door swung open, revealing Hauptsturmführer Vogel, comma, because here it is, I read my execution in his arrogant smile. See, commas matter, my friends. We must put them where they belong, because now this makes sense. And now I'm much more comfortable saying Hauptsturmführer.
That stops me as a reader, just not liking difficult words. My first thought is like, I really hope I'm not going to have to look at that word for the rest of this book, because
I totally agree. Well, it also feels like a little like, guess what word I know? It's Hauptsturmführer. Like,
I know it's, and clearly we're talking probably, I'm guessing, World War II historical fiction.
Could be World War One. I mean,
Exactly. I hope still over. I mean, yes, and obviously it puts you in place, but again, that is a difficult word to open with in your sentence. I read my execution in his arrogance not. I mean, that's, yeah.
I like that. I mean, look, I like this part. I think this is very, I find that quite intriguing, but it kind of feels like every other part of the sentence is just based around using this gigantic German word and showing everybody that we know that gigantic German word.
Because, I mean, the fact that she's using the name, or I'm guessing she, I don't know why, they are using the name of Vogel means there's some kind of relationship. Like they met before, the person knows the Sturmfuhrer.
Well, unless the Sturmfuhrer has just like been their tormentor in the prison for some time.
Yes, but that's what I mean. Like it's not a complete stranger coming in, and they're not probably not reading it off a name badge. It's like there is some history.
Hello, my name is.
Yeah, my name is.
And then, but the marker goes like off onto their shirt, you know, because it's just such a damn long name. Okay,
exactly, all the way along, and it would have had a special little, you know, SS badge on the top to make it really impressive.
Oh wait, I love when my friends do the work. Kelly. Thank you, Kelly. Kelly commented and said, I Googled it. Apparently, it is a Nazi Party paramilitary rank that was used in several organizations such as the SS, the NSKK, and the NSFK. Kelly, thank you. You're hired. It's a position that pays no money where you show up to my lives and Google things that I don't know.
Thank you. Because, I mean, the question, I guess, is do you really want to be Googling something in the first line of a book? Because that makes it a barrier to entry, as they put it.
Absolutely. And look, we kind of nailed it, right? We knew that it was a war involving Germany, or I guess Austria. You know, we knew about where. So I don't know that this would stop me for sure. I would just assume it's a German military rank that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think there are ways to use language to welcome readers into your world and into the world of your book. And there are ways to make it, as you say, difficult to enter, right? So is your opening line a barrier to entry, or is it opening the door?
And an invitation to come into this world and join you. Yeah.
100%. Well, and you know what? I'm even going to stop right now for a second. I'm coming back. Everybody just don't be alarmed. Okay. So I don't always do this because sometimes the friends who come on First Line Frenzy with me, their novels don't have great first lines. I'm not going to lie to you. But your first line in A Daring Pursuit is flipping fantastic.
Wait,
and I'm going to...
Is Daring Pursuit. Oh, Reckless Match started with a pig because that's the prologue, which just makes me laugh the whole time.
Well, this is chapter 1. So I obviously have the arc. So
I
just could change. I don't know if you're going to change this.
This is for which book now?
This is for A Daring Pursuit.
Okay.
This is the one this is the one we want everybody to buy. This is Kara. So this is the first line of Kate's forthcoming novel that comes out next month. Speaking about lines that welcome you in versus keeping you out. Okay. Lady Karis Davies dressed to meet her blackmailer in the same way she dressed for every other social occasion. Scandalously.
Yes, no, that has stayed as the first line.
It's such a good first line. It's so good. And so, like, hey, character forward, right? Lady Karis Davies' first words in the line, showing us who she is, introducing a conflict, and also giving us loads of voice. We literally could not ask for more in a first line. And so, like, that's the bar, my friends.
Well, and that hopefully gives you the type of person she is as well, because you know, the fact that she's deliberately provocative and she's not just being a wallflower that's her whole thing is encompassed in that thing, and dress is her way of expressing that. So
yes, her wardrobe is her palette. And I have to tell you all that, you know, Karis is it's like purposefully extravagant and slightly and very provocative and slightly flamboyant dresser, and then her love interest is like a very stoic,
totally
like
cool as
ice
piston,
buttoned up. It's like it's the best. It's the best. Anyway,
the reviewer described her as like RuPaul in the Regency, but a girl, which I thought was actually brilliant. it's kind of true.
That's pretty true.
It's like two different people. Like real Karis is really sweet, but she's doing this ridiculous thing as a as a kind of armor.
Well, her armor, right? Yeah, her armor is very like that. So anyway, this was my point: is that like that line welcomes us in so directly and says, "Come on in, the water's fine."
Yes, and this girl is someone you want to have an
enough,
adventure with.
Yes, ironically enough, as the cell door swings open, my interest swings somewhat closed.
Oh.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to move this over. Adult romance.
Okay.
Rob tiptoed through a raft of Amazon packages on the stoop he shares with his neighbor, hoping to avoid meeting her. Well, we have a
tense
verb
issue.
Tense problem. Yeah. I think it's probably meant to be present tense, actually. I'm going to take a guess. I think we're going to just make it like that. Okay, so Rob tiptoes. I love the raft of Amazon packages. That is very delightful to me.
Yes, because there's that slight hint of the actual Amazon and the raft on the river Amazon,
yes.
Which is kind of nice. It's
so funny. And also, like, we get it. We've been there, you know. We have also just stepped over the boxes. I do like this. I think it shows us what the conflict is, right? That it's Rob and his neighbor. Rob, it's a character-forward sentence. I think this is great. For a contemporary romance, I think this is really pitch perfect.
Yeah, I probably would have put it in Rob tiptoed. I don't know why. I mean, I know it's
you would have kept it in past.
Rob tiptoed through a raft on the stoop. He shared with his new neighbor, hoping to avoid meeting her. Hoping to avoid, though, that's slightly clunky. Hoping to avoid meeting her. I don't know if there's a way you can
Yeah, so Rob
praying not to meet her. Hope, you know, sort of be like hoping to avoid for some reason doesn't sit beautifully in the brain. I don't know.
I think it's also it's two progressives in one sentence. It's hoping and meeting. It is a little, it's like mouth busy. It's like too much to chew, you know? So I would tinker with that as well. But I think it's a solid sentence. I mean, that's a relatively small, I wonder if we can fix that. Let me think. Hoping,
praying not to meet her. I mean, you're right.
Praying not to meet could work. Or even, I don't want the sentence to get too long.
Hoping to avoid her. Yeah, hoping to avoid her is slightly
the idea that
different.
They haven't met yet. Yeah, hoping
to avoid her would. I mean, I guess that's a bit more antagonistic, right? Hoping to avoid meeting her just means it's slightly less.
Yeah, he could have anxiety about meeting new people, or it could be her specifically. We don't really know. All right, well, you know.
But it's still a nice open. It's still a nice open. And interesting that you're in the guy point of view to start with, because this is almost about to be, I guess, the meet cute. Because what's the very thing that he's going to do probably is meet her, because it's the last thing he wants to do. So I'm guessing we're about to get a meet cute. But
I agree. It's a little rare to start with him. It's not totally uncommon, but I think it's definitely. I always notice. I always take note when that happens. So I think this is very clever, and I like it.
Yeah, you're right. The raft of Amazon packages has me sold because it's quite interesting it works on many levels.
It's the Amazon. Yeah, it's just very funny. I mean, I wonder how intentional that was. Or I think that's fantastic. Okay, we're down to our last two. Another adult thriller suspense. Thank God I don't have to do it alone. 2 rings, and then I heard a click, and the voice of someone who could potentially save me from this real life nightmare. Friends, real life is used as an adjective here because it's describing this noun, and therefore it is hyphenated. I find, now you tell me how you feel about this, Kate. I find then it often functions as a conjunction. And so I don't love but then and then as phrases because they feel redundant to me.
And in fact, I think you're right. And I heard is like I felt, I saw. So actually you could do 2 rings, comma, a click, comma, and the voice of someone who could potentially say would be much stronger. Because and then I heard is just, we know you hear because you're telling us about the click. So it is redundant. So 2 rings.
We hate filtering language.
2 rings, a click, and the voice of someone who could potentially say from this.
Okay, so that's much more interesting. For those who are newer or newish to First Line Frenzy, we talk about filtering language a lot, which is any language that draws attention to the quotidian use of the 5 senses. because especially when we're in a first person narrative, anything that's seen we assume you saw it when you looked at it or used your eyes or whatever.
Yeah,
anything
or you're describing it.
Yeah, any sound that you're bringing to the page, we know you heard it. So there's no reason to belabor those points by saying, I looked, I saw, I heard, I felt, I put it in my mouth, and then I tasted it. We get it. So so don't do that. I think this is quite interesting, because I don't know if it's a 911 operator or their phone a friend. I don't know.
Yes,
I think it's quite thrilling and suspenseful.
And the voice of someone who could potentially save me. I mean, potentially, because who could, and do we need potentially even? I mean, who could save me? Who could save me?
Well, but maybe they can't.
Who might save me? I guess you do need potentially, because there is that element of doubt.
Yeah, it definitely introduces that. It feels very like a last ditch or like a last chance kind of thing, which I find quite interesting. I like this one now that we fixed it. I didn't like it before.
Yeah, and I mean, it is, as you say, suspensey. I'm guessing through, I don't know why, but I'm assuming it's a female narrator, maybe, just because.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure yet.
We're going to click. And the voice of someone who could potentially save you. Yeah, it could be either. You're right. I mean, I guess I'm being biased in the fact that women seem to want saving more than men, but.
Want and need, two different things.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. There's no way to tell. I mean, I think it definitely passes the so what's next test, because I want to know who they called and what happens and what the real life nightmare is.
It's also got a nice rule of three when we do that thing, like 2 rings, a click, and the voice. That's got a nice kind of roll to it to get you reading on.
It has nice momentum.
Yeah.
And the language is just spare enough that it feels consistent with the genre too, which I think is fantastic.
And you do get the voice. It's a bit like Raymond Chandler, The Big Sleep, has got one of the best opening paragraphs ever, and I can't ever remember what it is, but it was like, I was sharp, well dressed, and everything. You know, a well dressed private detective ought to be, and I was calling on $10 million or whatever it was. It's just such a brilliant. You know, I was clean, sober, well dressed, and I was calling on $10 million, and it was just so good.
It brings you right in. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And the voice is so strong.
That. Raymond Chandler vibes. I think that's quite a compliment. But of course, we have to get rid of the filtering language. Okay, last one. Historical romance. You're welcome.
Oh.
Jack Eaton was no newcomer to bootlegging, but the 15 sacks of illicit Old Crow whiskey weighing down his truck were making his palms sweat against the steering wheel.
Okay. I think.
How was the whiskey in sacks? Am I missing something?
Sacks. Yeah, you're right. Is it
barrels
just leaking out? 15 sacks. And I don't think you need illicit, because the idea of bootlegging is already illicit alcohol. So 15 barrels of Old Crow whiskey, and it's EY tells me it's America, and bootlegging is more an American phrase, so we're set in probably Prohibition era.
I'm thinking this is 1920s. Yeah.
Old Crow whiskey weighing down his truck were making his palms sweat against the steering wheel. It's straight into the action. It gives you a conflict. It gives you something to root for, you know.
Oh yeah. I think it's pretty good.
It does its job. I want to read more. Jack Eaton was no.
The curiosity for me is, if he's no newcomer to bootlegging, why does this?
Yes. Why is he sweating this time?
Yeah. Why is he sweating this time? Why is this time different? But that's good, because that's the kind of question we want readers to have. You know, it's not confusing. I'm not like, it's not a logic puzzle that sort of stops us in our tracks, but it's a good question to have, I think.
Yes, because it differentiates this, and it gives you that question of, this is different and this is why it's a change from the norm. I like the specific, like Old Crow whiskey. They could have just said the 15 barrels of whiskey. So the fact that you've got Old Crow gives you a tiny detail that makes it more realistic in a way, because you know, it feels like he's personally understanding the Old Crow as opposed to, you know, Jack Daniels or whatever. So
yes.
Yeah,
I think I quite like this one. I mean, certainly if I were reading, you know, if I opened it up and read this, I would be quite taken with it.
I mean, I guess weighing down his truck, in the back of his truck, I mean, is it important that they're weighing? I guess weighing is a good thing, because it's it's like physical weight and also a kind of responsibility.
The pressure.
I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Though I do wonder if it's that, like, if the truck is so overloaded that it's dragging, and that's how he
or
worries he'll get
bouncing or
caught.
something, low on the back that's going to make him stick out or something. So yeah, it's good. I like that. That's good.
All right, I'm coming back because that was the last one, and we have to pick a favorite. Do you have one in mind that you?
Oh my gosh, that last one was pretty good. I mean, that to me would make me want to. I did like the raft of Amazon packages though.
The raft of Amazon packages was very good, and I hopefully the author will watch this on the replay and tell us if they intended the Amazonian raft to be like in the Amazon River and also on the porch.
No, you're going to say that. Of course they did. When anyone points some completely unintended cleverness in one of my books, I'm like, oh yes, of course, it was on so many levels. But of course, you're like,
I'm a very deep and important author, so of course I intended all of those things you loved and none of the things you hated.
Yes.
No.
So I mean, I like to think it was, just unconsciously done through my brilliant brain. But in reality, it's probably just coincidence. Or, I mean, as humans, we are wired to find patterns and connections. So I think perhaps that's what sometimes people do that. And I forget, and they'll say, oh, in this book, 8 books ago, you mentioned this and it's cropped up here. And I'm like, that was not intentional. But
Easter egg, great work.
Somewhere. Yes, it's obviously cropped up as a theme or something that was still in my brain. I needed to come out. So, yeah.
Okay, so the author of the Amazon packages line, you're welcome to DM me, but I will also look into my secret file and find your email address and get in touch with you about getting you a copy of A Daring Pursuit, which everybody, again, comes out on May 24th. It's so good. You have time to enjoy A Reckless Match before A Daring Pursuit comes out. You have time to read the Bow Street Bachelor series, which is going to thrill you no end. It is on Hoopla right now if you're interested. Yes. I know the audiobooks are on Hoopla. I didn't check the ebooks, but the audio is on Hoopla. And it's really, really well done. So if you're looking for just a wonderful way to pass the time, this weekend.
Get it from libraries. Authors love libraries. A lot of people don't think authors are happy with libraries. We still get paid. I'm delighted that I use my local library all the time. And I don't feel guilty at all. So, it's great. If you, especially if they don't have it and you request it, that's even better because that means we get another library sale, which is awesome.
I had a big win this week because I don't know if you read. Do you read non-romance? Are you an exclusive romance reader?
I read everything, but
so I just, Emily St. John Mandel just came out with a new novel on Tuesday, Sea of Tranquility, and it's a sort of companion to The Glass Hotel that came out, I think, in 2020. And I had requested it from the library because at my library, a request also puts you on the holds list. So even if they haven't ordered it yet, I got it first. I got it. It's like it was there in my inbox on Tuesday morning, and I couldn't believe it. I felt like I had won the lottery to get a book on release day from the library. I truly felt like I had won.
That is unusual for actual release day. It's very good.
I won the prize. I was so happy. It's a 6-hour audiobook. It's under 6 hours, and it's like the densest 6 hours of storytelling I've ever borne witness to. It was amazing. I felt like I was like snorted it.
That's very cool. Yeah, it's interesting. I've just signed a deal to do the 3 audiobooks for my Secrets and Spy series. With an amazing audiobook narrator who can do all the different, because that's quite a difficult series to narrate because it's in French, but it's in France, the first one, and they're like French speakers pretending to be Italian tourists, and there's all this complicated, like, actually, when I started thinking of some poor narrator having to do it, it's like, good luck with that.
Can you tell us who you got to do it? Are you allowed to
Oh my goodness. I can't remember. Is it Marnie? And I can't remember her second name. She is a voice actor, and she was an actual actress as well. But now she just does voiceover, and she's done
Is it
like
Marin Ireland?
Marnie. No, her name. Oh goodness, she's just done the.
I was going to say Marin Ireland is. She's amazing.
She did like Sherlock Holmes, and she's done a whole bunch of really, really cool stuff. She did Pride and Prejudice. So I think she's an American, but she does English accents and foreign accents really well. So
amazing. Oh, that's a lot to look forward to. I love listening to stuff like that. And Kate Quinn's books, the Alice Network and the Rose Code, are Saskia Marleveld does the audio on those, and I don't know how many languages the woman actually speaks, but she does the most amazing accents. And it's, as you say, because it's World War II and it's all spy fiction. Sometimes you have like Brits who are pretending to be French, and then they're speaking Italian, but a little bit of German, and you're like,
This is what I had. I had some French speakers who had pretending to be Italian, speaking really bad French. So that's, but one of them is actually a bilingual English spy. So the whole thing is just, good luck with that.
Not complicated at all. That's amazing. I'll keep an eye on your Instagram feed.
Oh no, I should quick look. Hang on, wait. Let me look up.
We're not going anywhere. We're gonna hang here all day. Tell me.
Oh my goodness, why? Let me find out. It was on my own. You'd think I'd remember. It was with Findaway, and then they found this narrator who was very, very cool. Hold on.
That's amazing. We're all very happy for you. While Kate is looking for that, what else do I have to tell you? Oh, I promised I would announce the next IG Live co-host. And in 2 weeks, Elise Kova is going to be here with me. She writes YA and adult fantasy. A lot of you know her Air Awakens series, the Alchemist of Loom series, the Married to Magic series, which is a series of interlinked standalones, which are all very good. So Elise will be here in 2 weeks at the end of the month, and you're the first to know. So,
oh, it's Marnie Young.
Marnie Young. Okay.
Audio Sorceress is who. Audio is her at. I don't know what her. She's known as at Audio Sorceress on Twitter.
Okay.
So
I've never listened to her. I have like the Rolodex of audiobook narrators in my head, and I never forget an audiobook narrator.
Yes,
like well, character names, terrible, but audiobook narrators I remember, and I've not listened to her, so I'm gonna look her up.
No, and she's I think it's because she's like more of this kind of a bit more classical character. I don't think she's done that much historical romance. She's done like the Sherlock Holmes and the things. But
let's get her in there.
That's who Findaway said. As soon as we wanted your books, we realized that she would be the perfect match. So I'm hoping this is going to be a match made in heaven, and she's going to do them justice. So yeah,
that's amazing. Congratulations. I think another perfect match for me would be a series of yours narrated by Mary Jane Wells, who I would love to listen to just read the phone book if she were willing.
I know there are some people who, I mean, like Nicholas Holt is another one, and
yes,
there's some voices that, but some voices, especially if it's a really sexy guy, they are too nice to listen to, and you find that you're not actually listening to any of the words. You're just sort of swimming in this sea of sexy voiceness. So
yeah, and you're like, what just happened?
Might not be good. Like you come around 3 hours later after this daze, and you're like, oh, I was in a soup of sexy baritone, and I've no idea what's going on. But,
sexy baritone soup.
Yes, that should be a great. That's got to be a contemporary romance title right there. Sexy baritone.
Yeah, no. Sexy
about
baritone soup.
A cappella singers. I can see it now. Oh, pitch perfect, but for guys. Yeah, that's the elevator pitch right there.
Look, we got to get it written. We're going to get it made. It's going to happen. Thank you so much for being here. It was such a delight to meet you. I was already such a fan of your work, and it's always nice to meet an author who is just as wonderful as her books, and you are. So
it's all
thank
a lie.
you so much.
I'm going to go back and start cooking some copies now. This will be up on YouTube within the next 24 hours, probably the next 60 minutes, if we're being honest. If you guys have any questions for me or for Kate, you can put them in the comments. Be here again in 2 weeks for another IG Live. And thank you all so much to the authors who submitted their lines. To those of you who are still waiting to see your line, the list is up to about 600 lines. So just hang in there. You'll see them eventually. Authors, I would say as well, thank you, because it is so difficult to put yourself out there, and it's cringing as other people rip your stuff apart. So please don't take anything we've said, take it with a pinch of salt. If, it is tough. And if you're pre-published, keep on going, because it is.
We do it so they
slog.
get better. I've always said, First Line Frenzy is a community learning project, and the only way that it works is if we all agree to put it out there and learn together and rip it apart and rebuild it and put it back together again. So thank you all for your bravery in allowing us to do that and allowing other people to learn from you and learn with you. And
I love cruel edits. I really love it. I wait. That's what I'm waiting for this week, is for the cruel edits to come back. And I take 2 days of crying in a corner, and then I reluctantly realize they're right, and I do need to rewrite that scene or add the scene.
I used to send all of my edit letters with a disclaimer, hey, don't read this at work. Don't read it on your phone. Yes. Don't read it waiting in line at Starbucks. Please don't read it while you're driving. But then I just stopped. And I've been doing this for about 14 years. And so at this point, I just send the letters, and I'm see attached. When you're ready to talk, let's talk.
Oh, I see the email come in, and then I wait till I'm in the right. I'll read the cover letter, and I'll let that brew for a minute, and then I will look at the actual manuscript, and then I'll let it so it takes me about 2 weeks to fully get my big girl panties on, and yeah.
I do some of my margin edits on a little piece of technology called a Remarkable tablet, which is like a PDF reader, but you can draw on it with a pen. You know,
nice.
like I can write on it in the margins, and it's amazing.
Yes.
But I will often draw my author's characters or like draw scenes on top of the page. So I try to turn the draft into like an art object, because getting attached to an early draft is like never a great idea. You know, you have to view it as this in progress thing. And so doodling and like hearts and smiley faces and question and like all of the things that make it into a living document that's separate from your actual soul, I think really helps. And of course, knowing,
I think every author has like several like Word documents that are just like outtakes that like cut things that you tell yourself at some point that's not bad writing, it'll just get put in a different book. It never will. We just like lying to ourselves that those, they're not dead, they're not cut, they're just waiting for their time to shine. And
they're still
that's how I get away with it. Like, yeah.
Yes, it's like an elephant graveyard of just like sentences you worked really hard on that have no place in your book.
Yes.
I get it.
And sometimes, like this book, the third book in the series, Wicked Game, I had the best opening line, but it is now the first chapter opening line. I've got a prologue because it was starting with the guy in the wrong place and I needed to do this setup. So the first chapter has the opening line, but it just didn't work for the actual whole book because you needed this kind of flashback. But yeah, it was a good one. So sometimes even if you really, really want it and it works, it can't go. So
it's hard. It's hard when you know what you wanted it to be and it's just not quite landing, or as other things change, then you got to change it. But whatever you're doing is working because you're amazing. And I can't wait to read number 3. I'm going to be first in line requesting it on NetGalley. I'm going to be pouncing on it.
I'm trying to think of the opening lines there. Oh, I know. It was the opening lines. If there was one thing impossible for Davies to resist, it was a bet from a Montgomery or a challenge from Montgomery or something like that.
That is a really valid first line, especially for the series. And you had to move it?
They're about to have sorry?
Is that the first line you had to move?
No, that's the one that it ended up being, and that opens with the big challenge bet that sets up the whole 3-kiss bet that they end up going on, which is
so good.
She should have been specific. She said if he came back alive from the wars, she would give him 3 kisses, but she didn't say where, so that's classic kissing.
Classic rookie mistake.
Classic.
She's going to read more historical romance. Yeah.
So that's good.
We cannot wait. We can't wait for all of it. I know everybody's going to be rushing to check out The Ruthless Rivals because it's such a delight. And yeah, we're just going to keep... join my mailing list is probably the easiest, or find me on Facebook or Twitter or wherever in the usual places. But and I noticed you have a link tree on your Instagram profile that has all of those links, so people can find you and find your newsletter and
you get a free novella, an Egypt set map making novella like Indiana Jones in the Regency. You get that free if you join up for my newsletter, which is fun.
Want that. We all want that. Okay, so everybody sign up for the newsletter, read the Regency Indiana Jones story, and live your best historical romance reading life.
Yes.
Enjoy
badasses and bodices. That's what I write. So
that's right. Yes, badasses and bodices. That's good. We will see you soon. Good luck with the release. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. And we will all be posting and loving and sharing about it in May.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for having me. It's been delightful.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.